Hello, Syngap.Land. My name is Michael Graglia, and this is episode 158 of Syngap.10, the Syngap.One podcast. Today is Wednesday, January 15th, and I want to start by talking about publications. You know, every week I talk about how many publications are written about Syngap.One. You go to pubmed.gov, look them up. The biggest number right now is 313 papers written since 1998 when the gene was discovered. 54 of those were last year in 2024, which I talked about as being very exciting because that was the best. But how are we doing in 2025? Well, there have been 2 papers so far in 2025, which is pretty good for the second week. In fact, we need at least one a week to get better than 54 this year. And those 2 papers are both pretty exciting. The first one is a genotype-phenotype study out of China, where they take all the patients they identified with Syngap, with the same genotype, i.e. a Syngap mutation, and they studied their phenotypes, i.e. how they present. So we say genotype-phenotype or geno-pheno if you're in the biz. But the coolest thing about that, and the findings there were consistent with what we've seen elsewhere. But the coolest thing about that for me was there were 246 patients identified in that paper. Guess how many patients we identified in China in our census? Our census, to remind you, comes out every quarter, and the most recent update, January 1st, 13 days ago, stated there were 1,530 Syngap patients in the world, of which 113 were from China. Well, guess what? Now we have a publication, which means the data is solid, saying there were 246 in China. That's pretty exciting. That's pretty darn exciting. So thank you to the authors of that paper. And if you want to check it out, follow the link to PubMed, follow the link to the paper. The other paper, though, is what I really want to talk to you about. It's sitting right here in my hot little hands. And the title is Roadmap to Advanced Therapeutics for Syngap.One Related Disorder, a Patient Organization Perspective from Syngap Research Fund. And the authors are myself, Aaron Harding, and Catherine Heldy. So really excited about this paper. Now, the trouble with publications is as soon as they come out, they're out of date, because we submitted this months ago. And then we had to iterate on the authorship because we had some people give us information. We made them authors, but then we're like, oh, they shouldn't be authors. We took them off as authors, and that took months. And then there was the peer review process. And these things just take time because a lot of people have to do a lot of work. But at the end of the day, we now have in a peer-reviewed journal, thank you so much, in this series on rare diseases, an opportunity to talk about SRF and Syngap. There's a beautiful, and honestly, you can go to the link in the show notes. I share the LinkedIn, the Twitter X, whatever they're called, the Facebook links on this. I want you to share this with your family, your loved ones, your kid's teacher. This is not highfalutin science. I'm one of the authors on here. This is just plain English, what we've done at SRF. If you have any family members who've given us donations, give them this paper. If you have any family members who you think should give us donations, especially, give them this paper. Be like, guys, this is what SRF does. Read this. This is great work. And it sums it up beautifully. There's a plain language summary on page 1. We talk about why Syngap is a compelling target. We talk about the disorder. We look across Wiltrout, Vlaskamp, and Jimenez Gomez for all the different studies that have described this disease. We also share a list of all the publications that have happened and all the different numbers of patients they've identified, which is pretty exciting. We share the census, which is now out of date, right? Because this was done before we got to the 1530 number. We talk about why we think there might be more patients out there. It's all beautifully laid out. We talk about the global Syngap community, and we do our best to give shout outs to SGN, to all the other Syngap groups here on Earth. We talk about the different scopes of work for the science team leads, looking for new therapies for SRD, looking basic science, clinical trial readiness. We talk about Citizen. We talk about all the grants that SRF has given, laid out in this beautiful table with dollars and cents next to them. And then we go on to talk about some of the advocacy work we've done, the incredible work of Fondo, the work on the ICD codes, the advocacy with the Social Security Administration. Just amazing. We give a shout out to Jackie Cancer in here for her incredible work. We talk about clinical advocacy. We talk about DEI briefly, and then we talk, too briefly if I'm honest, and then we talk about the roadmap and kind of what. This is the heart of this paper, is the Syngap Roadmap, right? What we've done from 2019 to today and what we're after, which is disease-modifying therapies. That's just exceptional work. And it's all written out here. We also have this lovely table I love from PubMed showing the number of papers on Syngap. And we talk about the incredible scientific progress going forwards, the iPSCs, the organoids, the animal models. There's a beautiful table 7 here of all the different labs working on SYNGAP, all the different iPSCs. If you are a missense family or your kid has an extra weird mutation, I've probably encouraged you to do an iPSC. And if you've listened to me, you're going to be grateful, because once you have that iPSC and it's out and about, people are going to start doing work on those. It's one of the smartest things patients can do. We talk about both basic science, which was table 7, and clinical science, which was table 9. There's a shout out to Citizen in here and all the incredible labs working with Citizen and how that led to the Wiltrout paper. We talk about biomarkers, endpoints, the ever-present pipeline is in here, and we talk about all the different companies and the different therapeutic modalities that they're going after, ASOs, AAVs, all the things. And then we talk about current challenges and open questions, which is a really important section. And we end with missense. And then I'm just going to read the last paragraph to you before we go on to have 155 citations. 155 citations, you guys. This was a ton of work. And I don't want to pretend for a second that because my name is on this, I did most or much of this work. It was really Aaron Harding and Catherine Helday who did a lot of the heavy lifting here, and by collaborating and working together over months and months, we got to this point, and I cannot thank Catherine and Aaron enough for being a part of this paper. But let me read you the conclusion. We are encouraged. I got to put my glasses on because I'm getting old. My eyes used to work, but they don't anymore. We are encouraged by the speed at which disease-modifying therapies are advancing towards our loved ones with SRD. SYNGAP-related disorders. Still, every day our children living with SRD are building and living in a brain and a body without enough SYNGAP protein. They are suffering, and so are we as parents and caregivers. We need collaboration. We feel urgency. Time is brain. So there you have it, guys. This is publicly available. It's very professional and beautifully laid out. You can follow the link in the show notes. You can download this paper. You should please read this paper, and then you should give it to everybody. Aunts, uncles, dads, grandmas, grandpas. It is in plain English. It is readable. And people who are like, I still don't understand this SRF thing and what's going on, make them read this paper. It's incredibly exciting. I am obviously very proud of it because of the amount of work, not that it took to write the paper, but the amount of work that it talks about that we have done over these past 5 years. And even though it's already a little out of date, I think we're going to have to update it in a year or two. It's an important historical document because things are about to get crazy. Things are going to start moving very fast, and having this history, this foundation described in this paper this way is going to be really valuable. So please, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, SRF shared it, I reshared it. Please go, comment, share, tag people, encourage people to read this. Wrapping it up here, there's always a bunch of studies you could sign up for, the Fraser eye tracking, the Rochester, the VEEG. I want you to think about all of these. Virginia and Curry will be communicating about these more, but the Rochester study is one that I wish every single person could take part in. We always need money to do this work. Coast to Coast Challenge has inched up slightly since last time. It's basically over, but a few checks have trickled in. We're at $359,000. That's all going to go for building out our clinical network, and that money, just to be clear, will be consumed like that when we add a third site and contract with RareX for the data sharing. So this stuff is not cheap, guys, but our kids are worth it, and we need to move. We need to raise as much money as possible to move as fast as possible to get disease-modifying therapies into our loved ones. The end. Everybody needs to fundraise. Syngap.Fund/FR. Fundraising. Sprint for SYNGAP is your next big opportunity to contribute to a large number. That's going to be happening in April. Stay tuned. Anthony and Virginia will be coming up with us for that. I try to do a volunteer spotlight every time I talk. And this time I want to just talk briefly about Sarah Driscoll. Sarah Driscoll is just a process wizard and has done a lot of work with Salesforce with us, and has just, I cannot tell you the amount of things that Sarah just jumps on and deals with. Really, it's right now, it's Salesforce and process and paying grants and collecting progress reports and making sure that data flow happens. And if you think about it, we raise money and we give people grants, but then there's a lot of back and forth with a lot of institutions. We have, I don't know, almost 20 open grants right now. Probably at least 20 open grants if I think about it. And Sarah knows the number. I don't. That's exactly how it should be. So she is the one who's managing this, and I cannot tell you how much headspace it frees up for me and others that Sarah is managing this important work and these critical communications to make sure that our scientists get paid, that they can pay their postdocs, and that they can keep Syngap on the top of the list in their labs. So thank you, Sarah. I don't say it enough because Sarah and I are always talking, what's going on here? Why isn't this done? Who didn't sign that? Mike signed this. I thought I signed it. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But I just want to go on the record and say thank you to Sarah. Your work is really important, and we are so grateful. Two more things. There's a conference on December 4th and 5th, and it's January, which means, dude, I've got 11 months. But here's the deal, guys. Planning keeps playing costs down, helps you keep your calendar open, helps you start thinking now about how badly you want to go to Atlanta and be with the whole community. I'm telling you, the conference we just had a month ago was amazing, and the conference we're going to have in December is going to be mind-blowing because I know what's coming. Like, there's a lot. And you're going to want to be in that room, and you're going to want to be with all the other Syngap families at the end of this year. So look at your calendars now, December 4th and 5th. What will it take to get you to Atlanta? If you can get there, get there. If you want to go and you're willing to bring your family and cost is an issue, bug us and let's figure out how we can help minimize that cost so we can get as many families as possible in the room, December 4th and 5th, Atlanta, Georgia. As always, we're looking for volunteers. Links in the show notes. Reach out to Zoe. She's fabulous. Social media numbers are there. Let's get our YouTube and our LinkedIn up. LinkedIn is the place, guys. If you're going to comment on just one place on this important paper, go to LinkedIn and write about it. Share your reflections. Share it out. We really want to make noise there because that's where industry lives. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Syngap 10. Please make sure you give us 5 stars wherever you can. And enjoy reading the paper.